And it's very important for the baby to get, like, from the mommy, wow, that's incredible, that's great, that's wonderful, look at you, look what you can do. Now, Mahler says that mothers are more likely to do that with boys, and there's been research, they're more likely to admire that in boys. Not all mothers, and it varies, but there's a sense that in girls, the mothers don't like it so much when their girls get more active and more independent.
I think culturally there are big differences too. My nephew was raised alongside another girl of the same age when they were infants, and their nanny was from South America. And she heaped all the praise and support upon the boy child, but the girl child got none of that. And it was a cultural thing. I mean, I think culturally it was just a dominant, and the mom of the girl child had to ask that her daughter get praise too for all her little first steps and counting and pulling herself up, and it wasn't intentional, but it was like more culturally based. Or so it seemed to me.
Well, and in our white, in white culture, in WASP culture, it might just look like, kind of coldness, like the mother is or it might look different, but still may be there. Okay, and then I don't know, for the gay man, it's like the mother. I don't want to presume. It's like the mother can intuit. She's got a little gay boy, and may treat him, be less encouraging of him to move along.
Absolutely.
And will want him as her little
husband.
Right. Yeah.
Just one thought about what you were saying, Teresa, along with what you're saying, Sandra, is that we could say that that all cultures have this attitude about girls, and some are more than others. But even in the most liberal, liberated, whatever, WASPy culture, the mother's still going to have some attitude, like you're saying, around this coldness towards her girl as opposed to the boy.
I just want to say that I remember I grew up with 2 older brothers, and the word, you can't hear me? I just wanted to say that I grew up with 2 older brothers, and the message I got was don't, and the message I saw them getting was do, in everything.
Wow.
It was simple as that. So don't, do, yeah. And it was, a lot of it is unspoken, like you said.
Right. So, but the underlying thing, it's like when we talk about boys and girls, I think it's really important to understand that what's underlying that is not patriarchy, but heteronormativity. That's what's underlying this boys and girls thing. So I don't want to pit boys and girls against each other, because what happens in that discussion is oh, boys have it easier, boys have it better than girls, and that's not what's going on. Everybody gets, it's problematic for everybody, because there's things that boys don't get in this paradigm that they need, like boys don't cry, act like a man, and all kinds of things like that are also incredibly toxic. So, this sort of enforced heteronormativity that has these gender rules and things in it is that's the problem. I just want to say, so we don't go down that road of boys have it easier or something. Let's see. So what's interesting is that at the same time, Mahler, in her book, she says that she has this too. This book is written in 1975. She did all this research, infant observation. She was one of the first ones to do this detailed infant observation. 1975, I read it, I was really shocked. Because, her analysis is about gender, because I was oh, gender identity, and her analysis is that what happens to little girls at this age when the gender identity comes on is they become aware of their shortcoming, their lack of a penis. And this is how psychoanalysis has theorized gender until like up the into very recent times. So that's one of the reasons why I think there's not a lot of discussion about it. And there's been some discussion from heterosexual women who don't like it, who critiqued it kind of in this way, okay? But in terms of like what happens for lesbian girls, I think, you know, for a lesbian girl at this stage, she comes online, her gender identity comes online, she looks at her mother, she can feel like, I'm not like her. I'm a girl, she's a girl, she's a woman, something's supposed to be in sync here and it's not. Because gender, the purpose of gender, I'm going to propose, is desire. And the discussions that have gone on about gender is as if it was separate from desire. I think you quoted somebody in your talk who said gender and desire are separate. But what's the point of gender? I mean, I don't know, you know, is it like, I mean, I'm sort of a believer that everything has a meaning. So there must be some meaning in like why nature decided, or whoever decided, you know, like that there shall be two, and we're in this gender, and like what, maybe something more interesting can happen as a result of being in a gendered body. And maybe that more interesting thing has something to do with love and desire and getting turned on and getting turned on to life and existence. Maybe it has to do with that. And to talk about gender as if it's the separate thing, like separate from desire, I think is a form of splitting. It's a result of this problem that I was talking about earlier, where, and I'm referring now to people who are confused about, am I a lesbian, am I a man, what am I? So I want to read you a dream. Here. Okay. And just imagine like that this is somebody who's struggling with gender identity. So don't imagine, but it really is somebody struggling with it. So, okay. I had a dream that I was being chased by a little girl. She looked like me, or rather like the way I looked when I was small. Like the sunbeam bread girl with strawberry blonde curls and pink cheeks. In the dream, I was hiding in my mother's bedroom, terrified. The sunbeam girl was trying to break down the door, and I was holding it back against her. I was shouting for someone to help, to call Bellevue to come get her and lock her up. She was the crazy one, not me. At last, an ambulance came, and two men dressed in white took her away. She was surprisingly relaxed when she went, actually limp. She did not struggle as the men strapped her to a gurney, put a blue ice pack over her, and pushed her into the ambulance, which I thought looked like an ice cream truck, white and cold. I stood watching while the ambulance drove away with that little girl inside, and there was a sadness to the dream, mixed with a great sense of relief. So, I don't know, maybe you could just feel where that dream strikes you or hits you, or what your feeling is about what's going on there. For this person who was born into a female body, what that relationship is to that little girl body.
The relief could be the acknowledgement of finally she's dreaming this. Is there an age given or not?
This person's about like 25 years old.
Having this dream, the sense of relief being taken away finally.
What about that?
The struggle, the pain, and maybe it'll come to fruition or to a finality of the pain.
It's
go
over.
away. It's over with, the relief.
Yeah.
Just riding off in the ambulance. And just,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that you're absolutely right on with
it's
the
just overwhelming after suffering.
this terrible suffering.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so you get the feeling of
Yeah.
this terrible suffering that's
Terrible
going on for a long
suffering
time.
and a relief at having a direction, a path,
Uh-huh.
leading her out of pain, hopefully.
Uh-huh.
Can I say something? I feel like I should because I'm a guy. But I do, something does resonate with me with that,
Uh-huh.
which is that when I was 17, and I had a mental breakdown that was severe. I was cutting myself with razor blades, not telling anyone. I had a suicide attempt. And I had to go, I was crying all the time, all day and all night, uncontrollably, heaving. And my family wouldn't even ask me if I was okay. And I had to go to my mother to ask her to send me to a psychiatrist because I knew I was going to die, because I knew that my next suicide attempt was going to be successful because I was figuring out how hard it was to kill the body. And when I went to my mother and asked her to send me to the psychiatrist, which was very hard because she used it as a punishment for being feminine when I was younger, it seemed like the hardest thing in the world to me to admit that I wasn't mentally well, that I was mentally sick. It was the hardest, it was even harder than admitting that I was gay. It was almost impossible, but it felt like that admission. And when I started going to the psychiatrist, there was a sense of relief, and there was a sense of sadness too, because I couldn't hold myself together anymore and pretend that I wasn't sick. And that didn't lead to fruition. I had to leave that psychiatrist because it got to the point where I admitted I was gay and he was going to try and make me straight. That was a long time ago. But, and I stayed away from psychiatrists for about 20 years because I was afraid of them. It's too bad because I never got to get well for like 20 years because of that. But when you said that story, that dream, I never really told anyone this, and it's been about 30 years now, how that felt, the sense of relief, the sense of terror at admitting that I was sick, but at the same time, it's over, you know.
It sounds like there's some way that you're identifying with this little girl who
Right.
like finally got to get into the ambulance and get taken away, and maybe she's going to get some help. Is that your sense?
Anything but what I'm in now.
Uh-huh.
Anything.
Anything
Just
but
release me. Let me go
Yeah.
forth
Yeah.
and explore, possibly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being in, they took over my mind. I wasn't in charge anymore. I was under new management. The psychiatrists were the managers of my mind. You know, they took over. It was just kind of limp like the girl. It's like, put the thing on me, put the pill in my mouth, you do all the thinking. Because I can't think, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'd lost that ability.
That phrase just impressive, under new management, is an excellent phrase. I mean, it just,
And what's going on here? Yeah. Well,
Go ahead.
yeah. So, did you want to share something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, my response to that felt like that the woman having the dream was splitting off hope from herself. That the little girl that was split off wasn't crazy. She wanted to see her as crazy, but she also wanted for her to get help. Help in some form was coming. So it was like, this is a piece of me that I cannot have and I cannot be with, but I still want to have some hopefulness for it, but I can't even be with the hopefulness.